Alright, I think it's time for another head-to-head review. The racing lineup on the Gear VR, and specifically the road racing lineup, has always been sparse. VR Karts feels like an extremely watered-down version of Mario Kart, and there are a few endless driving games that don't qualify as racers. But the Gear VR does have two motorcycle racing titles, so this week we're taking a look at the two high-speed Superbike on asphalt games, Incline versus SBK VR. SBK VR was released for the Gear VR on August 23, 2017 and is available for $3.99. It's developed by the Italian studio Digital Tales and is, as far as I can tell, a direct port of the Android release of SBK 16 and is also available on the Google Daydream. Incline was released on June 14, 2017 and is completely free. It's created by the lone developer of Homewrecker Studio, and I actually played a beta version of the game some time ago. Even though both games are Superbike racers, they feel very different. SBK VR follows a standard racing game format. You get access to 24 bikes with licensed riders, 13 official tracks, and 3 race modes: Quick Race, Time Attack, and Championship. The first two modes are exactly what they sound like, while Championship mode has you racing each track several times in qualifying and race settings. With the exception of Time Attack mode, you'll be racing against 23 AI opponents. There is no online play, but the lengthy Championship mode should have enough content to keep you for quite a while. In contrast, Incline is multiplayer only. You choose from a handful of bikes and rider skins, and choose one of 4 tracks. While SBK is purely an arcade experience, Incline leads towards simulation territory, and with that brings a little extra difficulty. Racing, crashing, and injuries will cost you cash, which you earn by completing laps and races. If you can't find anybody to race at the moment, you'll just be rounding the circuit solo. The main difference between SBK and Incline is the aforementioned emphasis on realism. SBK doesn't seem to care much about you driving off track, and even if you crash, you're restarted almost immediately in the same spot without losing too many places. However, with Incline, you'll wipe out if you try to turn on anything besides asphalt or brake or accelerate too hard while turning. Crashing, which can be spectacular, results in a restart from the pit, and shifting is completely manual. Incline emphasizes precise control and consistency, and in my opinion, provides the more rewarding experience. Both games require a gamepad, and this is the only control option. Sadly, neither game makes use of the Gear VR motion controller, which, with a careful implementation, could be made reasonably similar to a twist grip throttle on a motorcycle, but I digress. SBK uses the left stick to turn with the triggers for throttle and brake. It makes sense, but it's the way it's implemented that feels numb. Even when using a controller with analog triggers, the throttle and brake are still digital, either on or off. Steering is better, but not by much. There seems to have been an update since launch, so steering is somewhat analog, but there's still a big gap between slight turn and full tilt. It does work, but the control is the weakest aspect of SBK. Incline is a totally different story. Controls are completely customizable, meaning you can remap buttons and axes from the settings menu, even during a race. The analog control of the throttle and brake feels smooth and linear, as is the turning with the analog stick. But I found an even greater degree of control using the head turning for steering. Gazing at the entry, apex, and exit of turns feels very natural and helps with visualizing and improving the racing line. So in terms of control, Incline takes an easy win with its smooth precision. The graphics are done well in both games, albeit with some differences. SBK has that Android port look to it. When played on a smartphone, the graphics seem crisp with sufficient resolution, but when immersed in VR, the textures and models seem less impressive. It's not to say they're bad, but things get a bit blurry up close, kinda like a Nintendo 64 game. Incline seems to use a slightly higher polygon count in the models, and textures seem a bit more detailed. However, the tracks in SBK are bigger, and there are 23 other riders, so SBK has more work to do processing-wise. The motorcycle dashboard, that is the speedometer and tachometer, are functional in both SBK and Incline, but SBK's instruments look better. The frame rate seems smoother in Incline though. There is very little stuttering in either game, but it really feels like SBK's frame rate drops significantly at times. Each game also takes a different approach to sound. Incline's engine noises are great, and tire squeal is not only present, but informative as it helps you gauge braking and traction. SBK's engine sounds are really quite bad, like a high-pitched buzz more than a screaming inline 4. As for music, SBK has it, and Incline doesn't. Though SBK's music isn't really anything special, sort of a generic rock racing tune, and actually reminded me of Cruisin' USA, which isn't a great thing. Comfort is another area where the games differ. Incline, with its smooth frame rate and linear controls, gives minimal comfort issues. SBK seems okay at first, but quickly started to wear on me. I attribute the discomfort to the twitchy on-off turning controls and the inconsistent frame rate. I can race for 10 or 20 minutes in Incline, but after a single lap of SBK, I'm already feeling a bit dizzy. Keep in mind that the camera does move side to side and up and down as you lean into the turns in both games, so anybody susceptible to motion sickness will likely have issues with either. Note that SBK does allow for third-person view, but it didn't provide much help with the discomfort, at least for me. As for immersion, I'd say both games do it pretty well. Peeking through or over the cowling on the bikes as you scream down the asphalt really gives you the sensation of speed. Incline gets the slight advantage on immersion because of the great analog brake and throttle controls combined with the manual shifting that really makes you feel connected to the bike. So, time for a conclusion. Is there a winner? Well, for me there is, but it depends on what you're really looking for. Personally, I prefer Incline. The controls feel great and are customizable, gameplay is overall smoother and more comfortable, and perfecting your racing line as you race around the track again and again is rewarding. Like I said, it's more of a simulation experience, and some people might find it too difficult or just not worth it to put in the time. SBK is very clearly an arcade experience with less focus on realism, but it has 3 times as many tracks. Incline is a bit lonely, while SBK is populated by AI opponents and feels more alive. If price is a factor, then at least give Incline a try. It's free, and you can always buy SBK if you want the arcade experience. Just beware of the potential motion sickness issues. Hey everybody, thanks for watching, and an extra special thank you to my subscribers. A couple months ago, the channel hit 1,000, and it got me thinking. I'm going to be making some changes in April. I'll still be doing VR, but exploring some different content. So if you haven't done it yet, click those like and subscribe buttons, and tune in next month for some exciting stuff. See you then.